before we get... Am I crooked? This camera is definitely crooked. I don't actually have anything prepared. I'm mostly just testing a new switching software for work, and this video is that excuse. You'd think that I'd have this room cleared out by now for how many times I've commented on how messy it is, but I'm in the very slow process of still setting up this studio, if you will. I've been thinking a lot about the Alex Gibney documentary that I watched over the summer called The Inventor, which is about Elizabeth Holmes. Wait a second, what was that? Elizabeth Smart. I was mixing her up. For some reason, Elizabeth Holmes reminds me of Elizabeth Smart. What was that? Oh, that was in 2005. Man, I remember, I was living in Salt Lake City at the time. That girl got abducted. Anyways, I'm gonna have to look into that some other time. Elizabeth Holmes was the founder of a company called Theranos that was making these claims to be able to test blood off of a few droplets in a little machine. So in theory, you'd be able to go to like Walgreens or something, take a tiny little blood prick like you would if you were testing for, you know, diabetes kind of a thing, and you get these test results back really, really quickly. Well, she got all this investment money to the tune of like $1 billion, and it was then found out that the technology was nowhere near where it would be, and they're making all these kind of lies and stuff. Now that I've really given some time to let that whole case process, and I've really thought about it, what she was doing in my head, I mean, she's basically called out for fraud, and that's what she's being charged with. I don't know if she's currently in the case or whatever, but as I think more about this, it's kind of like, well, isn't that what a lot of investing is? Couldn't you also do the same thing for most of the Kickstarters or Indiegogo kind of products that are in investment stages? I mean, you're just making a lot of claims of, you know, we don't have it, but this is where it will be one day. And I know there's some transparency stuff with Elizabeth Holmes, but I don't really know if she was doing that much worse than, like, say, what was it called that Microsoft had?
They haven't imagined what we're able to do today. We've been experimenting with something here. I'd like you to meet a boy called Milo. He's a character that can recognize us, he can recognize our faces, he can recognize our voices, he can recognize emotions in us. And this is Claire. She's going to introduce you to Milo.
Hi, I'm Milo. How are you doing?
Hi, Claire. You okay?
Actually, I'm a bit nervous.
You? Nervous? I don't believe it.
This is the first time that thousands of people are going to see this.
Thousands of people?
Here we're seeing Claire being recognized, and the emotion in Claire's voice being recognized, and that emotion reflecting in Milo's face.
That was in 2009 when the Kinect first released. That was their big reveal video of sort of what the Kinect could do. And obviously that AI technology they were claiming they had, you know, ready to go, obviously wasn't, because we still to this day haven't seen something that even really close to that. And so that's sort of a fraudulent claim on itself. And then also on Microsoft, they had, was it the HoloLens?
What if we could go beyond the screen? Where your digital world is blended with your real world. Now we can. This is the world with holograms.
First of all, that's not really a hologram, that's augmented reality, but they claim that this was something that they could do now. And here we are. I mean, that was in 2015, we're 6 years later, and there has been no talk. I don't even know if the HoloLens project is still running, but those, in my opinion, are pretty much the same type of investment fraud, if you call it that Theranos was doing. There's definitely some degrees, again, of transparency, and there's some details of the Theranos case that do kind of make a big difference. But in general, to call someone like Elizabeth Holmes so fraudulent while letting these companies get away with it just seems not really fair. It seems like a double standard in a way, because if I was an investor in Microsoft and I assume that they actually had this technology ready to go and I invest in it, that's the same thing that people were upset with Theranos for, was that they were claiming they had this technology ready to go. They did have prototypes, not really functional prototypes of this blood sampling system, but they did claim that the technology was on its way when it wasn't. And I think that Microsoft is a little bit guilty for the very same claims that they're claiming this tech. In fact, they say in this,
now we can.
Obviously it isn't, because if it was here now, we would have it 6 years into it now. If they had had it now in 2015, here we are in 2021, we would all be wearing HoloLenses. And I know this is a prototype. I'm sure they had some sort of a semi-functional version of this at the time of this video, but their claims are insane. I don't know. I think just with modern kind of Silicon Valley ways of just pumping investments and going public and just raising capital to make these things come to fruition, it's sort of, they've built a culture that, I mean, are you surprised? Could you possibly be surprised that Theranos was, pretty fraudulent in terms of their claims? Can you even blame them? Could you blame any company? I mean, that's sort of the fake it till you make it culture that we sort of foster now. Just, something I've been thinking about. Kind of a comparison, if you will. Hopefully you find it interesting. If not, that's fine too.